Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. New joint action was being brought to bear to arrest the devastating decline of the South African mining industry, which Operation Phakisa would boost by positioning it as a centrepiece within a new, cohesive mining cluster that required across-the-board competitiveness. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Sashnee.
So 120 people have spent 5 weeks working together to develop mining as a collaborative engine for economic growth. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, so, really South Africa needs to firm up on what it's going to do about its mining industry. As they told us at the South African Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, or the Southern African Institute, because it's bigger now, Southern African Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, their colloquium this week, they gave you a historical insight into how powerful the South African mining industry was pre-1994. It was a world leader, without any doubt. The research and development that we did here was world leading. It was very well capitalized. And there was so much money coming from it that it spawned so many other industries, as they said quite humorously, also the beer industry. So, if an industry needed to be developed, they could come to the mining industry and they would find investment. Investment would be there into their industry. So it controlled, some of the companies collectively, they really controlled the economy. They were big four. And of course, there was a big one, Anglo-American. Since 1994, we have seen a depletion, a serious depletion. One of the changes was that the Chamber of Mines Research Organization, COMRO, which really led world research, was handed over to the state, to the CSIR, so that the state could take over that research. But as they pointed out there, it was very badly funded, and it's been in serious decline. There's been no benchmark research that's come through. So what they want to do now is try and regather everybody. They're saying things have really depleted seriously, but at least the foundation is still there. And you can rebuild on that foundation, but in a way that's 21st century-like. Mining was very big in the 20th century here. We're not going to get back to that being the cornerstone, but it can spawn a lot of industry. That's what the Mining Phakisa has arrived at, because this is what these 120 people did. They sat down as the Mining Phakisa. So they've come up with an idea that you mustn't see mining in isolation. You must put it within a collective supply chain. And in doing so, you're going to spawn a lot of other activity, including, at least, mining equipment manufacture. And that's why they've decided that mining must even extend to agriculture, because everything has got more high-tech. So if you're going to devote a lot of attention to making mining high-tech, those similar principles that apply can apply to other sectors, even agriculture. And you must see it cascade down, and you must make sure that mining can have as many linkages as possible that lifts other boats. A lot of work has still got to be done on this, of course, but at least there is some thinking going on into how we can give this mining industry a rebirth. Also a recognition of its huge importance in the past. Confessions too. I mean, the fact that there was such a lot of linkage in our minerals energy complex. They even recalled that Eskom was really funded in the early days by the mining industry. The Victoria Falls private sector energy producer down at the Germiston Lake here, there's still a vestige of it. That was charging the mining industry such high rates for energy that there was like an agreement between the mining industry and the government that the government should take this over so that the rates would allow mining to grow. And in actual fact, it was Anglo-American that gave a soft loan to Eskom so that they could take over, they could acquire, the Victoria Falls energy company. So that was the sort of cooperation that was going on. There was a coalition, and they were building a firm minerals energy complex. Now, we're not going to go back to that because, the years of cheap electricity have gone. And of course, migrant labor was the curse. We can never go back to that. But we've got to have a 21st century return to getting good value out of this amazing geology that we've got in South Africa, but also in the realization that in this lapse of 2 decades, other mining jurisdictions have got ahead of us. So if we've got to compete in certain areas where other mining jurisdictions are way ahead, we mustn't bump our head. And that's when beneficiation can come in, where you differentiate your product because you add a bit of value that puts you in a different category to your competitors. And then you can go into world markets without competing head on with these people who have built up huge infrastructure and volumes that make it hard for you to break in now because of the lapse that we've had over time.
How has Phakisa resolved to galvanize growth, transformation, investment and employment creation?
Well, what they've done is they've brought a collective together. And it's important in South Africa to have labor involved. It's important to have the non-government organizations involved. It's very important to have the departments involved, government departments, and not just one, but many, because mining goes across so many different departments. Water, and then you've got to make sure that your logistics are in place. You've got to make sure that your energy situation is in the right frame. So as this collective, I think that's one of the advantages of South Africa. We're able to get together collectively. But of course, if they don't collaborate properly, that can become a disadvantage. So what he was saying is that we really need to take the bull by the horns now. Everybody going in, because we need this economic growth. It can be spawned by the mining industry. And the way you galvanize it is that you underpin this collective collaboration with institutional bodies that make sure that this collaboration can continue. And we see one of them popping up with the CSIR in Johannesburg here, which is now going to go into public-private partnerships to develop things that are good for the mining industry. And they were speaking about the need for proper IT to get us way ahead, and how this IT could also be migrated to other industries as you develop it. And therefore, mining becomes this fountain again. But mining won't be able to last on its own. It's going to be dependent on how competitive the logistics are, the energy is, everything else in these supply chains, and the equipment and the technology. So they see themselves as galvanizing in order to make sure that we get the benefit that can include beneficiation, and we get away from the idea that there is a resources curse, because people fear a resources curse. When you are so resources orientated, normally you put other activities, industry, manufacture, at a disadvantage because they're unable to export as well as they should. But if you're all working collaboratively, the feeling is that you can get the best out of your resources and get away from that resources curse.
What is the key cluster challenge?
This key cluster challenge is the linkages. You've got to get those linkages going. There are so many linkages with mining. When you think of the link to equipment, the link to energy, the link to technology, those linkages have to really be 21st century. And if you have a central core sort of realizing that and helping to found it, I think it's got more chance of succeeding, because we know that in isolation, mining doesn't do what it can do collectively. And we see if there's a business case for something, the mining industry will go for it. If they differentiate in a certain way and it means revenue to them, they go for it. Now, there has been a lot of aberration in the mining industry. Going to London on these stock exchanges has been an absolute loss. And, one of the remarks passed from the platform by, the strategists doing Phakisa is that it's lamentable that one can perceive occasions where 20-something-year-old fund managers have actually led this industry by the nose, into trouble. This industry has gone into massive debt, which was unheard of in pre-1994. They would never have allowed themselves to get into that sort of debt. We haven't grown during the boom. We've gone backwards, whereas all the other mining jurisdictions have grown by 5%. We were going backwards by 1% a year during a boom. And then, when we hit the downturn, then this real weakness has been exposed. But at least there's a foundation there, and they feel that it's strong enough to rebuild the industry now in a way that will reflect the 21st century.
Can you tell us about the new organization MEMSA and its relation to Phakisa?
Now, this is an interesting thing that's already come about, and I'm sure there'll be many others. They're talking about the mining cluster. So when I say that supply chain, they're referring to it as a mining cluster, a whole cluster of activities. Now, one of these is equipment that you need underground. And MEMSA is Mining Equipment Manufacturing South Africa. And the idea there is that you get South African companies that can have some links with international companies, but they must be South African companies making use of government research facilities in a collective so that they can get a technology developed in an accelerated way and they can all use it. So this can be matched to our particular need here. We've got narrow reefs that other jurisdictions don't have. And we need equipment that can mine those hard rock narrow reefs. And that's where they see the starting point. They need to get a solution for that is very cost effective. And from then on they can take other things as well. So MEMSA, they see it as a Section 21 company that will be headed by its own CEO, and that will really make sure that mining here has a finite horizon, because even when our mines are mined out, you will still have that ability. When Africa goes into deeper mining, we will have the equipment to do it. And also, if we can get the equipment right now, certain areas where we don't go, we say you can't mine that, suddenly become mineable, economic, get some money out of it. So that's what they're hoping for as well, that we will extend our reserves, that we'll be able to say it does pay to go down and get that, even though it's very deep and dark and sometimes dangerous. We can do it because we've now got this equipment that is collectively built, that is also exportable in all mining jurisdictions, but particularly as people go deeper, we're going to have that special expertise.
Thanks for speaking with us, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Sashnee.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on South Africa's mining industry.